يا أبا عبد الله الحسين يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال الكريم في كتابه المبين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
The life of Sukayna alayha salam after Karbala is a discussion which is rarely presented on our pulpits and in our mosques. As Karbala was supposed to be a springboard for the personalities included, unfortunately, due to our ignorance, due to our lack of knowledge, due to our surface-based understanding of Karbala, we have allowed it to be a handicap. We have allowed it to be a source of limitation to the unlimited position of Al Muhammad. As in Sukayna alayha salam after Karbala had a life. Qasim ibn al-Hasan after Karbala, his legacy continued to grow. What were the effects of Qasim ibn al-Hasan after Karbala? What were the effects of Akbar after Karbala? What was the effect of Imam Hussein after Karbala? Now Sukayna alayha salam is a discussion. Why? Because she was one of the few survivors after Karbala. In addition to Imam al-Sajjad, who we are also looking at throughout these nights, Sukayna is one of the sole survivors after Karbala. And to take a look at her life is to look at the continuous, uninterrupted legacy of Karbala until the end of time. Of course, Karbala, yes, it was the childhood of Sukayna alayhi salam. So when we come and discuss the routine in which she lived after Karbala, there was a very disciplined life to hers. Because when somebody strives towards greatness, when somebody strives towards being an above average human being, he can either create a routine or he can, number two, recover after destruction. You find when people in life or in history we've noted to be noteworthy, some of them have created something that's special. For example, Isaac Newton and his discovery in the world of physics and the world of chemistry was something noteworthy. Albert Einstein, his theory of relativity was noteworthy. They created something. Number two is different. Why? And I would argue even more difficult. Is to what? Is to create after destruction. Is to continue after destruction. Because when somebody comes forward, for example, comparing Rasulullah and Isa bin Maryam, you will find that Isa bin Maryam had 12 disciples with him. Musa had the 12 sons of Jacob. They had people with them. But when Michael Hart comes and gives you the 100 influential people in history, and 2 years consecutively he comes and puts Muhammad as number one. Why? They told him why. He said because he was a moon in the midst of darkness. He didn't have support like Jesus and Moses. He created after destruction. Wallahi, some people, they come today and they say Obama is this, Obama is that. And I don't like Obama and I don't like Trump. I don't like the country in its entirety. But Obama inherited a destroyed economy. Do you agree? So if he even lived 2 days in office, that's noteworthy. Versus Bush, who there wasn't nothing, he didn't really receive a catastrophe in his hands. He didn't really receive nothingness and just an abyss of destruction. No, he had something to work with. The note is what? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made people stand for a female after they were buried alive. Do you know how difficult that is? وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. When the she camel will ask, for which reason was I killed? And why? Because these are people who have an internal level of greatness. These are people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to them in His book. He says, بل هو آيات بينات في صدور الذين أوتوا العلم. Allah says these are signs not from me. These are signs which are internally within the chest of those who have been given knowledge. Ali ibn Abi Talib didn't say, I am somebody who studies 14 hours to receive haqq. I am, for example, somebody who has memorized the Quran. No. When it comes to Ahlul Bayt, there's unity with greatness. They didn't strive towards greatness. They are greatness. When somebody says, I'm striving toward greatness, you're striving towards Muhammad and Al Muhammad. He said, I am with the truth, and the truth is with me. He said, I am the speakable Quran. Do you notice the delicate difference? You go, you tell Abu Hanifa Sakt, you tell the Malikis, we respect Maliki, we respect Abu Hanifa, we respect all of those who you deem as respectable, and they are honorable in our books just as they are in yours. But the difference is that he had intrinsic greatness. So Sukayna alayha salam, did she display this level of greatness? Yes. Because she didn't just create something. No, she rose after destruction. So that's why when you come in and look at the routine in which she lived, there needs to be a 3-level examination of her relationship with Karbala. The first one is the effect of Karbala on Sukayna. What was the effect of Karbala on Sukayna? Brothers and sisters, when somebody comes and tries to remember their childhood, he says, I smiled when my mother took me to the candy shop. For example, I have memories of the wonderful hot chocolate that I would drink on the 25th of December. I remember the snowman which I used to build with my siblings. Now, what kind of memories did Sakina alayhi salam recall? Because you understand, there wasn't a moment of figuring it out for Sukayna. You know, everybody in their life, they go through this moment of figuring it out. Sukayna's moments was based on yaqeen. Karbala was her childhood. So she didn't have this excuse of I'm still figuring it out. She hit the ground running. So what were her childhood memories? She would smile when she would see a drop of water. That was the memory of Sukayna. Her memories were of burning tents. That was the memory of Sukayna. So she didn't have this moment of figuring it out. So when you say number one, the effect of Karbala on Sukayna, she grew up and she built everything after what? After that foundation of yaqeen that existed in Karbala. There wasn't this moment of figuring it out and her memories were burning tents. So number one, the effect of Karbala on Sukayna. Number two, the effect of Sukayna on the world after Karbala. These 3 layers of reflection and 3 levels of reflection are vital for us to take on board to understand who Sakina was. Number one is Karbala and Sukayna. Number two, Sukayna on the world. When you come in and look at the position of Sakina and her influence on the world, what did it create? It created an understanding of acceptance. People accepted what she would say, considering that she came from a family which went through so much. It created softness in the hearts of the people. When somebody walks in here asking for $10, wearing a suit, a Gucci suit, and Zara pants, and Armani hat, and you look at him and you say, this kind of person, I'm not going to give him $10, even if he goes crazy. Why? Because the way he's dressed doesn't cause you to extend to him waves of sympathy. No, you come and you tell him, Allah, you have it better than me. You need to give me money. I see some people in Iraq, kids come to me smiling with wearing the best of clothes. They're asking me for $10 and, Habib, I need money from you. Are you kidding me? So that's what you find. She had no. Then you have somebody who comes into the mosque with disheveled hair, ripped pants, a shirt which only Allah knows where it was made. Even China says we don't want this shirt to be considered as something made in our country, whereas everything in the world is made in China. Comes says, no, I don't want it made in China. Now, you find what? You find that she had this level of sympathy. It was built within her. Her vision and her tears were different from the tears of her surroundings. This made it a bit easier for her to inject the love of Al-Muhammad and the love of the people surrounding her. So it created what? A level of acceptance. This is the effect of Karbala, of Sukayna on the world. Now what did the effect of Karbala and Sukayna on the world create and result. It created a culture. What kind of a culture, you might ask me? A culture of anti-conformism. Beginning with Sukayna. Wallahi, I get shocked when people jump from Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib to Imam Sajjad right away. After Karbala, Imam Sajjad. After Karbala, Zainab. What did Sukayna do? Sukayna was the one who was the first person to plant the seeds of anti-conformism in the society after the death of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Her presence was a revolution. Her presence was a slap in the face of injustice. And when I look at her life, I say, subhanallah, somebody that young, sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Somebody that young who could play a role that big goes on to tell you how great of an individual indeed she was. So what did it do? Number 3, it created a culture of anti-conformism. Now, her representation of the legacy of her father is something noteworthy as well. Because there is 2 different types of representation. The first type of representation is to see something through your eyes. For example, I want to come and discuss for you the oppression of the Palestinian people, okay? Now, my presentation of the oppression of Palestinian people from 1940s, from the Nahda, from the years of the uprising until today, is going to be different than, for example, John Smithson, who's going to come and give you a presentation in Rutgers University, okay? When Smithson is going to come and discuss for you the oppression of the Palestinian people, he's going to make it look like the Palestinians really were a group of people who tend to exaggerate, and they had it actually fairly well, and they are even privileged that they're mentioned on the same page of history as the Israelis. Now, this is the first type of representation, and alhamdulillah, society is replete with such forms of representation. So the first one is to see it through your eyes. Number 2 is, so that's a negative. In my opinion, that's pretty negative. It's called bias. Number 2. Number 1 is to see it into your eyes. It's for you to submit to the truth and to the facts and to be simply a messenger and a relater of events. I'm going to relate it to you. I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm going to give you the dates, and then it's up to you whether you think he was on haq or whether he was on haq, or whether he's right or this is right. Now, representation doesn't play a role in chemistry. No. There's no opinions when it comes to chemistry. Well, I think that the nucleus and that the atom is evil. People are going to tell you, go back home and drink lassi and eat tandoori, yes? Or for example, somebody in math is going to tell, I believe that multiplication should be eliminated. There's no emotions correlated with math. An emotional mathematician is basically somebody that needs to find a different job. Do you agree? There's no emotions. So this is the second one, is what? Onto your eyes. Not through, but onto. Simply you use it, you use your intellect, you use your rationale to understand 1 and 2 and to put it together to come up with 3. Representation, what did she do, salamullahi alayha? You find that indeed she didn't play with the events of Karbala and to give from her own biased perspective. She became the purest source of a narration of the events of Karbala. And wallahi, this is difficult to find. Today you have Hamid ibn Muslim, or you might have, for example, other narrators of the events of Karbala, who will, Abu Mikhnaf, for example, they're going to come and tell you what happened according to them. And if Bani Umayyah found them to have pockets which are ready to accept a few dollars to change their narration, then their pockets would have been full very quickly. So Sukayna alayhi salam's representation was a pure representation of the legacy of her father. Now people might come and ask the question, did she represent it through actions, through tears, or through words? What type of a representation did Sukayna salamullahi alayha present for us of Karbala? Of course, she represented it through her sadness, and of course, through her lack of compromising. Sukayna was so strong. I remember one day, she would be sitting in the majlis to where the daughter of Uthman ibn Affan would be present. Now we know in history Uthman was a martyr. Rightly or wrongly, Uthman died as a shaheed. Daughter of Uthman is sitting. She stands up, she says, Ana ibnatu shaheed. She says, I am the son of the martyr. Now Sakina is sitting there. She doesn't say something right away. Now I believe that Sukayna or Sakina alayha salam didn't speak not because she didn't know whether I should speak or not. She thought, how ruthless should I be in my approach? Because for somebody to have the audacity, let alone the content of what was said, the audacity to sit or stand before the granddaughter of Rasulullah and the daughter of Sayyid al-Shuhada and to make such a statement as, I am the son of the martyr, the daughter of the martyr, is something quite unfortunate, something very hapless. So she stands up and she says, Ana ibnatu shaheed. Sakina alayhi salam, she waits. The adhan comes, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. She stands up, she tells her, O daughter of Uthman, Muhammadun hada jadduki am jaddi. This Muhammad, is he your grandfather or is he my grandfather? You know what she says? She says, Wallahi, you are right. لا أفتخر عليكم بني هاشم أبدا. She says, you, O the family of Hashim, I'll never act prideful above you any time. Now what do we find here? We find that Sukayna alayha salam was very intelligent in her approach to the representation of Karbala. Now when I tell you, yes, she didn't add, she didn't minus, she gave it as it is, but others will come and tell you, no, she did add to Karbala. She added to the sadness of the legacy of her father. She added to the greatness of the saga of Karbala with her presence and with her narration of it. Knowing that she was a survivor of Karbala in itself showed to us the importance of her position. And that's why somebody may come and ask the question, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Can we connect this kind of an approach into today's life? As in Sakina alayha salam, we understand that she was a pure source of Karbala. Her childhood was Karbala. Everything that we know about her is inextricably intertwined to the battle of Karbala. What can we use from this and take it as an example to understand what's happening in the world today? Today, one of the biggest issues in the world today is mental health. You agree? There's even a mental health day. This brain of ours and the cognitive aspect of the human being is a pivotal piece in our existence. If somebody comes and tells you that I can understand the human without taking a few psychology classes, then either he receives wahi or he ate too much in the morning. Yes? Now, cognitively, the human being is truly in need to be understood. And I propose that Sukayna alayha salam can be the greatest link and bond between Islam and psychology. There is no one better than Sakina to understand the relationship between Islam and psychology. How am I meant to deal with disturbances in my life? What do I resort to? Number one, some came and said, after you go through a traumatic episode in your life, a car accident, you lose a loved one, forget everything that happened with such an incident. Delete the pictures of anyone involved in the incident. Delete the text messages of anyone, for example, involved in, for example, a divorce or something like that. And forget anything that happened related to it. Now this is one view. Another view came and said, no, use it to strengthen you. Use it to understand why is it serving as a form of weakness in your life. Who came and said this? Sukayna alayhi salam, when she wanted to feel tranquility, do you know what she would do? She would remember the saga of Karbala. She would remember the musibah and the beheaded head of her father, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. When I think about this as a psychologist and as a graduate of psychology school, when I see Sukayna alayhi salam here, we find that when she wants to feel better, she resorts to that episode of Karbala. How can I make sense of this? This means that she used it just as the eagle uses what? Uses strong winds that comes to it. He uses the wind to escalate and to elevate into higher levels of the atmosphere. Now when I think of the storm of Karbala which hit her, I say, wallahi, this should be something she would never want to think about again. She thinks about it, thinks about it until she comes up with a what? With a new level of strength internally. This is something special. Now your resort might not be to a beheaded head, might be to pictures or to messages, but you need to find what your Ghar Hira is. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in times of clarity, or in times of higher needed clarity, he would resort to Ghar Hira. He would go to that cave and he would think. And that's where Jibreel came down to him and told him, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq." Read in the name of your Lord that has created. Now what is your Ghar Hira? What is your cave? I don't know. But you have to find that resort. I remember one alim, whenever the words of the majlis would begin by Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, he would burst into tears. He would cry and his eyes would overflow with tears instantly. I know some people, when he wants to feel better, he resorts to drugs. He resorts to the club. He resorts to haram and indecent acts. That's also a resort. Other people, what do they resort to? Other people resort, and this is an interesting type, they resort to the solutions of other people. What do I mean? He'll come and he'll tell you, when this guy feels bad, he goes to this specific location. So I'm going to go to the same location that he goes to. Now this might work, but what does this indicate? This indicates a low level of knowledge of oneself. Islam comes and says, know yourself, you know your Lord. You cannot know your Lord if you don't know yourself. How does my body reach higher levels of relaxation? How do I understand what makes my brain stronger and makes my brain weaker? How do I know? And if you don't know, wallah, I know certain individuals, I say if he knew himself just a bit more, he'd be so much more powerful. He'd be so much more influential. Because tell me, the enemy, do they know us or no? Wallahi, they know us. There was a conference in Israel. In Israel, there was a conference whereby they came and they were studying the Shia. I say, okay, knowing yourself is great. Knowing your mind is great, but at least know your aqidah if you don't know anything else. Be sure of your manuscript if you are not going to be sure of anything else. Be sure of the lives of our imams if you're not going to be sure of anything else. This is vital, I tell you. Who is Ali ibn Abi Talib? Who is Baqir? Who is Sadiq? Know the lives of these individuals. That helps a lot. So you find there was this conference of the Shia. They came and they said that there are 3 things that the Shia have that we fear. 3 things that makes them powerful. What are the 3 things? The first thing is that they have Hussein. Wallahi. Why does Hussein make them powerful? Because Hussein died, but he won. Now you can kill and kill and kill the Shia, and they'll still think that they're victorious. This is the first thing they have. What else do they have? Second thing they have is marja'iyya. They have these men with long beards who tend to live in remote areas around the world. Some of them live in Iran, some of them live in Iraq, and some of them are even from Afghanistan. They sit in their houses with these cute turbans and these long white beards, and they tend to have this Harry Potter aura to them. Whatever they say, people follow them. They zap and they remove and they extinguish, and they have these spells that they repeat and so on. Some of them don't even leave their house. They stay in their house and they do nothing. But millions of people love them. This is a source of power for the Shia. Get rid of them. This is number two. What else do they have? They have Mahdi. What's Mahdi and why are they afraid of the Mahdi? Because anything that happens and transpires, we have this conviction that at the end, the smile is ours. This makes them very dangerous. And tell me, who else in the world has an understanding of Mahdi like us? No one. A Mahdi exists in some creeds, I agree. But the holistic and the fruitful understanding of Messiah that the Shia have, where he's for everyone, he speaks the language of everyone, he's going to elevate people mentally, there will be an abundance and in fact an overflow of resources for the world once he comes. All of that good stuff is specific to our Mahdi. And that's why it makes them very good. And that's why I say, dealing with disturbances on a physical level, on an individualistic level, requires self-gnosis. But dealing with ideological catastrophes requires you to know your aqidah and to read at least 30 minutes a day about Ahlul Bayt. I'm not speaking some theoretical, mystical aspects out there in the universe. Pick up a book about Hussein ibn Ali 30 minutes a day before you go into biology, before you go into chemistry, before you go into all of that nice and beautiful, bubbly stuff. Pick up a book about Islam, Introduction to Islam. How much do I know Nubuwwah? How much do I know Imamah, right? These things are very important. And I say no one knew the importance of Aba Abdullah on the 10th of Muharram like that of Zainab. And that's why no one had the reaction towards the death of Aba Abdullah like the reaction of Zainab. Because she knows who was just beheaded. She knows who was killed, yes. They said that when Aba Abdullah alayhi salam was killed, Zainab would go on to the nearest valley and she would go to the hilltop of this valley. She would stand up on it and she would look towards the area and towards the sea where Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib was killed, and she would say, أخا يا حسين أخا يا حسين إن كنت حيا فأجبنا وإن كنت ميتا فأمرنا إلى الله. Brother O Hussein, إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. You know why this verse is so important? The verse I began with in chapter 2 verse 156. الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. People who once a catastrophe hits them, what do they resort to? Who did Zainab resort to? She resorted to the one who everything in this universe resorts to, and he resorts to nothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's also a resort that you can have in your life. That those when catastrophe hits them, what do they say? They say, from Allah we have come and to Allah we go. She stood upon that hilltop and she looked at the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, not knowing is he alive or is he dead, unsure of the results of Karbala. She would stand on this hilltop and she would say, أخا يا حسين إن كنت حيا فأجبنا وإن كنت ميتا فأمرنا إلى الله. She said, Brother O Hussein, if you're alive, then respond to us. But if you're dead, then our affairs are thrown to the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She didn't receive a response that time. But you know who she received a response from? She received a response when she was entering the land of Sham. When Zainab entered the land of Sham, she stops the caravan. Near to her was Kulthum. She tells her, Kulthum, do you know where that lady is sitting on that throne? She said, no. She said, that's Hind. Hind was a servant in the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib. Yet when Muawiyah hears there's a lady of Jewish descent in the house of Ali, he would take her and he would wed her to Yazid. She's in Sham now. She knows nothing about Karbala. She knows nothing about what transpired to Zainab and the likes of Zainab. She enters Sham. She says, that's Hind. Yes, they pass by the throne of Hind. Hind asks them, oh ladies, where do you come from? They say we come from Karbala, but we're originally from the land of Rasulullah, from the land of Medina. You know what she does? She comes down from the throne and she tells them, why did you come down? Zainab asks her, why did you come down from the throne when you heard the name Medina? She said, because of the people I respect in the land of Medina. Because of the people I have utmost dignity and utmost reverence in Medina. She said, who? She said, the first one is Hussein. The second one is Abbas. And the third one is Zainab. I say, Allahu Akbar. What happened to Zainab? Because yes, those names were dear to Zainab. But the name Zainab itself was mentioned. How differently did she look that she didn't notice Zainab standing before her? She would tell her, do you have any knowledge of these people? She said, yes. If you ask me about Abbas, go and find his arms near the river in Karbala. If you ask me about Hussein, go and find his head on a table with your husband playing with his lips. Yet if you ask me about Zainab, she says, I am Zainab, sister of Hussein. She says, my master, what happened to you? You look different. You know what he would do? She would take a rock and bash it on her head. She falls unconscious. Yet when she wakes up, she goes into the palace of her husband Yazid. Yazid tells her, put your hijab back on, because it fell in the process. She said, how can I put my hijab back on when the daughters of Muhammad are left hijabless? These are two instances of the effect of Karbala on Zainab. Yet I leave you with one last incident. One last incident is of a little girl by the name of Hamida. Hamida was the daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil, you understand, he's sent to Kufa and he's killed with Hani ibn Urwa. Yet upon his death, the news is given to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He says, bring me Hamida. Hamida bint Muslim ibn Aqil is brought to the Imam alayhi salam. And the Imam starts to wipe on her head, telling her of the death of Muslim ibn Aqil. She says, where is my father? He says, today I'll be your father. Today I'll be your family. Today I'll take care of you, Hamida. Sukayna later on is seeing Imam al-Hussein go to the battlefield. She tells him, come down from your horse and wipe on my head. Why? She says, because when Hamida became a yatima, when Hamida became an orphan, I saw you wipe on her head. I feel I'll become a yatima very soon. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, these are holy nights. These are important nights. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your hajat. اللهم صل على محمد وآله